Okay, everybody, stop scrolling. Right now. Because what I am about to unpack for you is not a hot take, it is not a joke, and it is not a courtroom pitch. This is a full-on cultural autopsy of the single messiest, most delusional, most spiritually chaotic celebrity betrayal of the year. And I need every single one of you locked in, because if you blink, you will miss the exact second where a grown man threw away one of the greatest women in modern music like Megan Thee Stallion was a receipt at a gas station. We are talking about Megan Thee Stallion. We are talking about Klay Thompson. And we are talking about a betrayal so loud, so nasty, so wildly disrespectful, that the entire internet paused mid-scroll to make sure it was real. Because Klay Thompson did not just cheat. That would already be bad enough. That would already be enough to get a man dragged from Los Angeles to Houston with a broken GPS. But no. Klay Thompson had to open his mouth. Klay Thompson had to add commentary. Klay Thompson had to look at Megan Thee Stallion, one of the most magnetic, most talented, most nation-shifting women in the culture, and decide the word Klay Thompson wanted to attach to her was ghetto. Ghetto. Say that word out loud. Feel how ugly it lands. Feel how tired, how weak, how deeply insecure a grown, championship ring-wearing millionaire has to be to call Megan Thee Stallion, of all women, ghetto. That is not a critique. That is a confession. Klay Thompson looked in the mirror and could not accept that Megan Thee Stallion was operating on a frequency Klay Thompson could not tune into, and instead of admitting Klay Thompson was overwhelmed, Klay Thompson tried to shrink Megan Thee Stallion. Because that is what small men do when big women scare them. Small men try to make big women smaller. Small men attempt to fold big women into pocket-sized versions they can control at parties, at press events, at family dinners where mom is still comparing everybody to somebody Klay Thompson dated in college. Now let us take a step back. Let us breathe. Let us set the table. Because I need everybody watching, whether you are a die-hard hottie, a casual sports fan, or somebody who just wandered in here because the algorithm dragged you by the collar, to understand exactly what kind of woman Megan Thee Stallion is. Megan Thee Stallion is not a trending name. Megan Thee Stallion is not a hashtag. Megan Thee Stallion is a whole cultural weather system. Megan Thee Stallion turned trauma into anthems. Megan Thee Stallion turned pain into platinum plaques. Megan Thee Stallion went through public court battles, public heartbreak, public grief, public loss, and Megan Thee Stallion still walked out on stage in 6-inch heels doing squats that would humble an Olympic athlete. That is the woman. That is the resume. That is the receipt. That is the resume nobody in Klay Thompson's contact list can match. Not on the best day of the best year Klay Thompson ever had. And I mean that with my whole chest. And Klay Thompson, the same Klay Thompson who has spent the last several seasons fighting his own body just to remember what a jump shot feels like, decided this was the woman who was too much. Megan Thee Stallion, apparently, was too loud, too Houston, too free, too bold, too colorful, too melanin, too Megan. Klay Thompson did not want a partner. Klay Thompson wanted a mute button. And when Megan Thee Stallion refused to be muted, refused to shrink, refused to file down the edges that made Megan Thee Stallion the entire moment, Klay Thompson slid out the side door and started auditioning for a new lineup. And then, and this is the part that broke my brain into 14 pieces, Klay Thompson had the audacity to justify it by calling Megan Thee Stallion ghetto. Out loud. On record. Where microphones live and screenshots do not die. Let us just sit in that word for a second. Ghetto. Because when men like Klay Thompson use that word aimed at women like Megan Thee Stallion, they are not describing a zip code. They are trying to describe a personality that intimidates them. Ghetto in that mouth means confident. Ghetto means loud in a room that expected quiet. Ghetto means proud of where Megan Thee Stallion is from instead of pretending Megan Thee Stallion grew up in a magazine spread. Ghetto is the word insecure men reach for when a woman has more spine than they do. And listen, I want everybody to hear me clearly, because this is the thesis of the entire situation. Klay Thompson did not leave Megan Thee Stallion because Megan Thee Stallion was too much. Klay Thompson left because Klay Thompson was not enough. There is a difference. There is a massive canyon-sized difference, and the entire internet clocked it in real time, in HD, with the subtitles on and the volume all the way up. Now here is where the story shifts, because I refuse to just sit here and be angry without also being useful. Everybody is asking the wrong question. Everybody is asking, how could Klay Thompson cheat on Megan Thee Stallion? That is the surface question. That is the tabloid question. That is the question your auntie is going to ask at Sunday dinner while stirring the pot with one hand and refreshing the timeline with the other. But the real question, the question nobody is putting on the table, is this. What kind of ecosystem produces a Klay Thompson? What kind of locker room, what kind of yes-man entourage, what kind of enabler pipeline convinces a man to look at Megan Thee Stallion, a woman millions of people would swim through shark water for, and think, yeah, Megan Thee Stallion is my downgrade moment. Because that is not a random decision. That is a manufactured delusion. That is years of being told you are the man, you are the star, you are untouchable, you are the franchise, until you actually start to believe it in the parts of your brain that should know better. Klay Thompson did not wake up one morning and decide to fumble Megan Thee Stallion. Klay Thompson was quietly, slowly, seasonally trained by an environment that never once told Klay Thompson to sit down and appreciate what was standing in front of Klay Thompson. And that is the hidden villain in this entire story. Not the side chick. Not the group chat. Not the paparazzi. The hidden villain is the yes-man ecosystem that let Klay Thompson believe Megan Thee Stallion was replaceable. The hidden villain wears a lanyard, carries a clipboard, and always says whatever the star needs to hear, no matter how many red flags are dancing in the background waving both arms. Now let me talk to the men watching this video right now because I know some of you are here, and I know some of you are quietly nodding at Klay Thompson like Klay Thompson made a power move. Klay Thompson did not make a power move. Klay Thompson made a career-ending emotional decision in public. Klay Thompson looked at generational love, generational chemistry, generational marketing, generational red carpet potential, and Klay Thompson punted it into the parking lot because Klay Thompson could not handle a woman with her own gravitational pull. That is not alpha. That is not high value. That is not that boss energy the podcast bros keep selling you at 3 in the morning. That is a man scared of a mirror. That is a man who could not survive standing next to greatness without feeling smaller. And when a woman like Megan Thee Stallion makes you feel smaller, that is not Megan Thee Stallion's fault. That is your ceiling. That is the number nobody else in your life is brave enough to show you. And let me be even more specific, because I want this to land. Megan Thee Stallion is the type of woman you build a legacy around. Megan Thee Stallion is the type of woman you write into your own story as the character who elevated everything. Megan Thee Stallion is not a trophy. Megan Thee Stallion is a co-founder. Megan Thee Stallion is a business partner in every sense of the phrase. And Klay Thompson could not see that because Klay Thompson was too busy trying to prove Klay Thompson was still the main character in a franchise that stopped being about Klay Thompson 3 seasons ago. Klay Thompson was auditioning for a highlight reel while Megan Thee Stallion was quietly writing a documentary that will still be studied 20 years from now in college classrooms. Now, back to the receipt everybody keeps forgetting. The word ghetto. Because I do not want us to gloss past it. When a black man with a platform, with generational wealth, with global visibility, aims that word at a black woman who has already been through more public pain than most people survive in private, that is not a breakup. That is an assault on the culture that built Klay Thompson. Because make no mistake, the same culture Klay Thompson is now calling ghetto is the exact culture that filled every arena Klay Thompson ever played in. The same energy Klay Thompson is now calling ghetto is the exact energy that turned Klay Thompson into a household name. The same women Klay Thompson is now calling ghetto are the exact women who wore Klay Thompson's jersey, defended Klay Thompson through slumps, and screamed Klay Thompson's name from the nosebleeds when nobody else believed. And this is how Klay Thompson repays that. By taking a machete to the very hand that fed Klay Thompson. That is not just messy. That is spiritually bankrupt. That is emotionally overdrawn with no direct deposit coming in. And here's where I want to introduce the part of this story that nobody is really unpacking, because everybody is too busy dunking on Klay Thompson to notice the pattern. This is not a one-off. This is a formula. This is the recycled script of every athlete, every rapper, every executive who suddenly hits a level of fame and then decides the woman who reminds him of home is the woman he has to distance himself from in order to feel evolved. Klay Thompson is running a version of the same playbook we have seen 50 times. Get famous. Date the woman who reflects your roots. Get scared of your roots. Trade in the woman for a symbol that looks like assimilation. Get exposed. Try to explain it. Fail. Cry in a Players Tribune article. Repeat. And Megan Thee Stallion is not the first woman this playbook has been aimed at. Megan Thee Stallion is just the loudest, most talented, most beloved victim of it in this current season, and that is why the internet is on fire, and why the fire is not going out anytime soon. Because here is a truth so uncomfortable it needs to be tattooed on the ceiling of every locker room in America. Men do not leave women because those women are too much. Men leave women because those men have not done the internal work to be enough. And no amount of championship rings, no amount of endorsement deals, no amount of glossy magazine covers can replace the internal work Klay Thompson clearly skipped. You cannot buy emotional maturity in the checkout line of a luxury store. It is not on the shelf. It is not on Amazon. It is not on same-day delivery. You have to earn it, one uncomfortable conversation at a time. And Klay Thompson decided uncomfortable conversations were not on the schedule for this season, or the next one, or the one after that. Now I want to zoom out even further, because there is a bigger cultural pattern here nobody is naming out loud. Every generation gets a Megan. Every generation gets a woman who represents unfiltered, unapologetic, undeniable black feminine power, and every generation watches a man closest to her try to shrink her. Every generation watches society whisper that this woman is too loud, too proud, too much, too free. And every generation eventually learns, usually too late, that the woman was never the problem. The mirror was the problem. Klay Thompson is just this generation's cautionary tale. Klay Thompson is the plaque on the wall that says, "This is what happens when a man cannot rise to meet a woman's altitude." Klay Thompson is the cautionary chapter in the book Megan Thee Stallion is going to write, and Megan Thee Stallion is not even going to have to write it angry. Megan Thee Stallion is going to write it from the mansion, from the tour bus, from the red carpet, from the acceptance speech. Klay Thompson is going to read that chapter one day and feel the exact size Klay Thompson always was. And here is what I want the hotties to hear. Because I know some of my hotties are watching this feeling gutted. I know some of you feel like this hurts personally, because you have been Megan Thee Stallion in your own smaller story. You have loved a man who called your realness too much. You have loved a man who took your softness and called it weakness. You have loved a man who took your loudness and called it a flaw. You have loved a man who mistook your identity for a personality defect. You have loved a man who ran to a woman with half your fire, called it peace, and then wondered why the house was cold in December. And I need you to hear this loud, clear, and permanent. The word ghetto out of a scared man's mouth is not a description of you. It is a confession about him. It is a self-portrait. It is a receipt showing exactly how small his world is. You are not too much. He is not enough. Full stop. Frame it. Print it. Tattoo it if you have to. Put it on a mug. Sip it every morning. Read it out loud at brunch to your girls. Now here is my prediction, and I want everybody to screenshot this so we can come back to it in 12 months, in 24 months, in 36 months. Klay Thompson is going to spend the next several years watching Megan Thee Stallion ascend to a level of cultural relevance Klay Thompson could not touch on the best day Klay Thompson ever had on the court. Megan Thee Stallion is going to headline stadiums. Megan Thee Stallion is going to book acting roles. Megan Thee Stallion is going to launch businesses, endorse products, headline festivals, get honorary degrees, get global campaigns, and do it all while looking like a whole entire monument in motion. And every time Klay Thompson turns on a television, opens an app, or walks past a billboard, Klay Thompson is going to be reminded of the woman Klay Thompson called ghetto right before Klay Thompson watched Megan Thee Stallion become iconic. That is not karma. That is math. That is the natural consequence of misjudging greatness in real time, on the record, with witnesses and phone cameras. And to Klay Thompson personally, in case Klay Thompson ever sees this video and wonders why the internet has not let this go. It is not because we are bored. It is not because we are haters. It is not because we are chronically online, although some of us absolutely are, and I include myself in that census. It is because Megan Thee Stallion represents something bigger than a girlfriend. Megan Thee Stallion represents every woman who was ever told she was too loud in a world designed to keep her quiet. And when you attacked Megan Thee Stallion, you did not attack a person. You attacked a symbol. And symbols do not forgive. Symbols outlive you. Symbols outlast every trophy, every ring, every stat line. Symbols become movements. And Megan Thee Stallion, whether Megan Thee Stallion signed up for this or not, is now a movement, and Klay Thompson is standing on the wrong side of it holding a shovel Klay Thompson dug the hole with. In front of cameras Klay Thompson forgot we're rolling. I also want to talk about the timing of this whole mess, because timing tells you everything about intent. Klay Thompson did not fumble Megan Thee Stallion in a quiet moment. Klay Thompson fumbled Megan Thee Stallion right as Megan Thee Stallion was hitting a new peak, right as Megan Thee Stallion was reintroducing herself to the world on her own terms, right as Megan Thee Stallion was rebuilding public trust after years of being unfairly dragged through headlines Megan Thee Stallion did not write. And instead of standing beside Megan Thee Stallion like a partner, Klay Thompson looked at that moment of ascent and got jealous of the altitude. Klay Thompson wanted to be Megan Thee Stallion's cheerleader for the parts Klay Thompson controlled and Megan Thee Stallion's critic for the parts Klay Thompson could not. That is not partnership. That is sabotage in a jersey. That is envy dressed up as opinion. That is the oldest coward move in the book, and everybody in the culture just watched Klay Thompson pull it live. There is also the enabler question, and I need us to talk about it before I let you go. Because Klay Thompson did not do this alone. Somebody in Klay Thompson's circle heard Klay Thompson call Megan Thee Stallion ghetto and did not correct Klay Thompson. Somebody in Klay Thompson's circle saw the situation building and did not intervene. Somebody in Klay Thompson's circle profited from Klay Thompson staying delusional. Every star that falls in public falls with a quiet audience of people who could have said something and instead said, "That is not my business." Well, if you were on Klay Thompson's payroll, it was absolutely your business, and history is going to remember which advisors could not tell Klay Thompson the truth for a paycheck of any size. So let me land this plane, because I feel my blood pressure doing gymnastics. If you are a man watching this, take notes. Do not date a phenomenal woman if you plan to resent Megan Thee Stallion for being phenomenal. Do not sign up for greatness if you plan to build greatness as a nuisance. Do not enter the arena if you plan to boo the winner. And if you find yourself at any point feeling like the woman next to you is too much, look in the mirror before you look at her. Because 9 times out of 10, the problem is not her volume. The problem is your capacity. Fix the capacity. Do not blame the volume. Do not blame the frequency. Do not blame the woman for tuning into a station your radio cannot pick up. And to Megan Thee Stallion, if by some algorithmic miracle this ever reaches your feed, you did not lose anything. You were relieved of dead weight. You were graduated. You were promoted. You were rerouted from a life that would have quietly dimmed your light to a life where your light is going to become the whole horizon. Klay Thompson did not choose a different woman. Klay Thompson chose a smaller life. And that is Klay Thompson's problem now, not yours. Keep dancing. Keep rapping. Keep laughing that laugh that shakes rooms. Keep being ghetto, in the exact ghetto sense that means unbothered, unbroken, unbought, and undeniable. Because that word in your mouth, in your posture, in your movement, is not an insult. It is a crown. And crowns look ridiculous on men too small to lift them. That is why Klay Thompson had to hand yours back. That is why the ring never fit in the first place. So that is where I am leaving it. Klay Thompson fumbled a legend. The internet noticed. History will remember. And Megan Thee Stallion, protected by an army of hotties who see clearly, is going to keep winning louder than anybody thought a hurt woman was allowed to win in public. If you rocked with this breakdown, tell me in the comments the exact moment you knew Klay Thompson was cooked, and be specific with the timestamp. And if you disagree with me, cool, tell me why, because I genuinely want to see how you defend the indefensible in the year we are living in. Either way, subscribe, share, and stay tuned. Because trust me, this saga is not done. Not even close. Because at the end of the day, this is not about one couple. This is about every woman who ever heard the word ghetto used as a weapon and refused to bleed for it. This is about every man who thought fame was a substitute for growth. This is about the culture we owe better to. That is the real story. That is the real headline. That is the receipt for the entire history books. I will see you on the next one. Peace.